All right, everybody, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock p.m. and I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
Please note, council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17.2 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection of disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip@highriver.ca.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate that. So, all right, we're going to point number 2, adoption of the agenda, and I'm going to ask Councillor Kinghorn to make the motion. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole adopt the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting on March 24th, 2025, as presented.
Thank you, Your Worship. You have my motion.
I was going to thank you, Councillor Kinghorn. I was going to say, you already put your name up here for a question, and there wasn't even a question yet.
I was going to make an amendment to the agenda, but I think I'll just speak to it under item 5.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and on to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. I'm going to ask Councillor Walsh to make a motion to be it resolved. Oh, I got to make resolution number, don't I? Do I have to say that? No? Okay. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole adopt the meeting minutes from February 24, 2025, Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
I'll give you that motion, Deputy Mayor Barton.
Oh, man. This is crazy. All right. Thank you for accepting that motion. Yes. All right. We got to vote on it. All those in favor. Should I go back to both? Wow.
We're going to be here all day.
Yeah, we are going to be here all day. Okay. How should I do that? Should I just go back to the first one? Okay. Going back to number 2. All those in favor of adopting the agenda for March 24th? All right. Carried, everybody. And now on to number 3. All those in favor of accepting the motion for February 24th, 2025, Committee of the Whole meetings. All right, passed. Now on to business. The first item that we have, or the only it's the, what the heck?
2 items.
2 items. 4.1, canceled meeting, Committee of the Whole meeting for March 10th. I'm going to ask Councillor Jones to make a motion, be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole formally acknowledge that the meeting on March 10th, 2025 was cancelled in accordance to Council's procedural bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Deputy Mayor Jamie Barton.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. All those in favor? Oh, this is 3 motions. This is awesome. Thank you very much. On to business item 4.2. Kaylee, we have you coming up to give us an update on the aquatics expansion construction.
All right, good afternoon, Deputy Mayor and Council. I'm here to give you a brief update on the aquatics project. Most notably took place actually last council meeting where we discussed some of the big changes that were happening with regards to the change directive. That has now is in progress and moving along. You'll notice I have provided a list of all the change orders that are in place right now. We do have some floating out there, but of course we're doing a lot of fact checking, so nothing new has since come up or has been finalized. You'll see a new list in the future should we have any of those come through and be actually fully executed. So what has been happening so far? Exterior dewatering continues to take place. That pump, we're hoping, it's a part of the change directive, will hopefully be installed here in the next few weeks, and then that should change the path of dewatering that's taking place right now. We won't have a 2-inch pump doing it, but we'll actually have a formalized well in place taking care of the water. Our mechanical room steel is up, and you'll notice that our change room steel is up, and a fair amount of the pool steel is up. You'll start to notice it get hoarded in as we start to heat and get some of that mechanical put into the floor so we can get on to the next piece, which is pouring the floor. So a lot of activity taking place, very visual now. You can see it from the road. You can see all the orange and white tarps up, and that's just because they're heating the space so they can do that work. We'll also start to see the roof start to get assembled as well so that we can continue to contain the building. A lot of our masonry is starting to show up because that will be kind of the next step. So we're going to start to see a lot of activity on site. So you'll start to see a lot of it come to play. Our small arena concrete pad was poured, which is great. Will give us, or the small Zamboni room has been poured, which helps us with our ice out activities that are still on schedule for being completed, that we're able to get the equipment in that we need through that new Zamboni Bay and complete those activities and change over our ice space into dryland space. So our upcoming activities will continue with the mechanical room and the aquatics lobby with the roof being installed. The exterior masonry has been delivered and will be going up shortly. And within the small arena, we will have some work being completed that actually facilitates the new ductwork that will be associated with the new air handling unit for the space. That work will be being completed. That will result in a short closure of the pool and some of the space within the small arena. That duration we have right now scheduled and booked as April 3rd to the 5th, and that is being coordinated with our user groups as well. Now to note, we've had a few disruptions prior to us doing this closure, so it's going to feel very redundant to the public. We've had a few operational activities take place with regards to the pool that are not construction related. Back on the 24th to the 30th, we had a crack in our pipe flange due to age. And another reason why we're kind of proceeding with some of these maintenance pieces that will be replaced within the new pool. We also had on March 4th to the March 7th, we had a pipe adapter fail, and then again on March 14th, we had a coupler fail. These have all thankfully been replaced and repaired, and we've been able to open the pool. It just does make it feel very redundant as we have construction closures on top of building maintenance closures. We've been working very diligently with the user groups, though, to try to accommodate that. And that is all I have for an update for you today. Do I have any questions that I can answer?
Okay, thank you, Kay. That was good. Anybody have any questions? I think I only have one that I just noticed was the one where it said just Alberta Health Services pool requirements. What's that change order like?
So Alberta Health Service, so we have safety codes that has very specific building requirements within this type of building structure. Alberta Health Services requirements are very much based on the functionality of the pool, the changeovers of the water, how that relates to the pumps. And so they had their own list of requirements that they needed from us. Unfortunately, there was a change in the Alberta Health Services requirements for pools between the design and construction. We weren't privy to this information. Our consultants aren't privy to this information. We kind of find out after the fact when Alberta Health Services goes through. So we were able to sit down and actually have a meeting with Alberta Health Services and really try to identify what the actual concerns were, because they had made us some suggestions of how we could meet their requirements. And so we were able to kind of go back through and reevaluate what was a more efficient way for us to meet their conditions and keep the project moving forward without a large change order.
Okay.
So that one was a very back and forth one, but we were able to sit down and meet with them and come to an agreement.
Perfect. Okay. I don't think there was anything else that I saw. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks very much. Appreciate the update. Two things, we still don't have a number on the dewatering, and that's because we still have temporary pumps in place. We haven't made the transition. So you've advised that you guys are still kind of in discussion, I think is kind of the way it was.
Yeah, so they have submitted their numbers to GGA for review, and I'm assuming I'm seeing it today or shortly, what the numbers were that were reviewed and given go ahead for recommendation for payment. So I can provide that as an update later if council would desire that.
Okay, then following that last meeting we had, I was asking about plan A, B, C through to Z, because we've seemingly eaten up quite a bit of the contingency to date, what we may or may not be able to adjust. And I think Chris had also followed up with an email to that effect about what we may or may not be able to look at should we fall into eating up the entire contingency prior to the project completion. So just want to follow up with that to see if there had been some internal discussion on that, if not looking for a fulsome report or what those plans, B to Z would be, but want to know that we're working on it, that if we need to make hard decisions about staying to budget, that we have those ideas or implementations well in advance of having to further discuss it should we need to.
Yeah, so absolutely. On my end, when it comes to how are we staying within our contingency and staying within our budget, and what are we taking out and what are we keeping in, really comes down to, is it aesthetics? Is it a need? Or is it a nice to have? And so that has been our kind of our process for reviewing change orders to date. It's gone a little further. We're getting a little bit stickier on just the sense of we're seeing a lot of alternatives even be presented to us, and now it's just a matter of, well, why is there an alternative? Does it cost us more to have that alternative? Is there a credit? I'd love to see a credit if you're going to give me an alternative. So there is a lot of that back and forth. So that's why, like, even some of our change orders that have been out there floating for so long, because we've pushed back to really want them to do the background of, was there really a true necessity to be presenting anything alternative? And is this nice to have? So that's where we're at with that. I can't answer to the email. I would have to leave that to Chris.
Certainly through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Nychuk, staff have advised both the contractor and the consultant that it's time to tighten our belts. And so that's been, I wouldn't say well received by the group, but it's certainly something that they have to take in consideration. And when staff look at all the change orders that are coming in, Kaylee's got a great approach with nice to haves, needs versus aesthetics. And looking at things that we can defer, aesthetic issues, is it something we can defer that takes place outside the project at a later date, a year, 2 years later, versus, not skimping or saving on air handling units, for example, or structure. That's where you need to make your investment for the longer term. So, those types of things that we're making clear decisions on. So, I think, we started kind of the belt tightening right now and trying to make sure that message is very clear to the group.
And I can add just a little bit to that. At our last construction meeting, and this was with all contractors and all consultants in the room and sub-consultants, is we specifically said, take a look at this project right here, right now. Where can we find savings? Because you've eaten through our contingency. So either you're finding us a credit or you're looking for a credit.
Thank you. I appreciate that tenacity, because it's easy for them right now in the current climate environment for them to say, oh, this costs more because of this and that, and they point the finger across the border and they slough it off at that. So I appreciate you staying on top of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nychuk. Next up is Councillor Walsh.
Thank you. Thank you for asking those questions. I was up and down and on and off there. Has the... that's okay. If you're more comfortable there, I don't mind.
I thought we were moving on to another topic. Okay.
Thank you for bringing the details and bringing us up to speed on that, Kaylee. So dewatering, have the groundwater levels changed? Are we still dealing with the same volume? Is it like our mitigation plan, is it effective?
So when we were out there walking with the contractor, what we see to date is consistent with what we've been seeing through since they've put the pumps in place. So it hasn't gone up. I imagine though, as we get closer to ground thaw, we may see that go up. It's hard to predict. So right now, we haven't seen an uptick in it. And to be clear too, Chandos is, I guess, billing for dewatering past this point, past January 31st, has come to an end. So anything that needs to take place, if it needs to be an uptick, it just means they need to get that well in sooner.
Okay. Beyond that, the systems that you've put in place to manage this, there was some conversation recently, are we meeting the need, or are we going beyond, so that should we see a change, be it seasonal or just Mother Nature, everything you've put in place is effective?
Right now it is, yeah. And with the design for the future, it's for our conditions plus emergency. So if we were to see, there's a safety in there by the engineering's on more water than what we're, like, they're going to measure what we have for water, and then they're going to say, but if it were to become substantially more, you're also set up to handle that. So
is there a percentage that they allow?
there is a percentage, and I don't know that percentage offhand. I'd have to take a look at their design.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Walsh and Kaylee. I don't see any more questions. Is there any more out there before Kaylee goes back to her seat? All right. Well, thank you, Kaylee. Appreciate that.
For sure.
And we can go on to item number. Councillor Kinghorn, you put your hand. Oh yeah, that's right. You wanted. Okay. Is this for Kaylee? Okay. This is question and answer period. So we're on to number 5, question and answer period. And I know Councillor Kinghorn had something to bring up.
Thank you. Actually, I have 2 items I'd like to put into the comments section here. One is around agendas. It's my perception, I don't know how the rest of council feels, but it's my perception that our agendas come in waves. Previous agenda was fairly light. This one's well over 250 pages on this particular one, which I believe I received on Friday. I would ask that administration have a look at their agenda program, if they all, I don't know how you do it, but perhaps some of these items, like most of these items I saw, or some of these items I saw in here, didn't have to be dealt with today, but could be done at the next meeting. So when you overload us, you kind of spread it out a little bit. I know we've had some meetings that were done at like 3:30, and the perception by the public is we're not doing very much, and then we have another one like today that's just likely to go long depending on the discussion. So that would be one item, is to a little bit of a discussion around agendas. And the other one is I asked to have the provincial requisition added to the COW just for a general discussion, because it's a hot item out there in the public, not so much in River today, but it will be when the new tax assessments go out. Can we have an update on where we're at on that as well from Mr. Prosser? You're looking at me like, oh, it wasn't me. It may sound like me, but it wasn't.
Yeah, the
And
follow-up.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, to follow up on an email I sent out last week to all the council too. Staff just finished finalizing the audit and getting the annual financial statements. Now they're diving in with the finished and the approved assessment and starting to do some calculations. So I hope to have the calculations by the end of the week so that we can see what the average assessed value tax impact is going to be based upon the $1.2 million of additional education funding that has to come from our taxpayers, and what that burden is going to be both on commercial and residential property owners.
So it was 1.2 additional, over and
Yes,
above.
over and above.
And our current tax rates, what were 1% at 200?
Well, that's speaking to our 1%. Our 1% generates about $150,000 worth of new revenue.
So
that's
just
our
rough
1%.
numbers, what are we looking at?
I don't want to throw out a rough
Really
number.
rough.
I know. I'm very hesitant because at the end of the day, it's a different calculation entirely when we're running through the requisitions than what we do for our municipal revenue. So, you know, if you wanted to take the 1.2 million and divide it by the number of properties we have, which is about 5,600, you might get a roundabout number from that perspective.
Do some quick math. Okay. Appreciate that, Chris, and I hope we can get that fairly quickly. And I hope that our comms department is well prepared to manage that for us. I know people tend to get those two numbers confused sometimes and put it that it's coming into the tax of the town. The other part of that is you'd mentioned perhaps doing some sort of a separate notification or something like that. Is that possible for us to consider that? Because this is going to be a big one. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We've seen it from other communities, Okotoks, Calgary.
Yeah, it is going to be substantial. And, you know, when we take a look at our current software system, we're not sure if it can actually run two separate tax bills, but we're taking a serious look at trying to find a way to do that. You know, we don't want to confuse the general public by having two tax bills and who pays what where. We want to make sure that communication is very clear and we're very concise, but separating them out somehow in some form so that people understand that, you know, the $750, you know, tax cut that you're getting on your personal income taxes is being billed out again through the municipal system for education foundation perspective. And so, you know, it's a tricky one to message, and we need to make sure that the residents know that they don't have to go find a provincial office that they have to pay their school tax and that it's still here. But it's nice to send that message out because, you know, about 40% of our taxes go elsewhere on your tax bill, right? And they go elsewhere. And so, you know, getting that message out is really key too.
I look forward to an in-depth comms message on that to all the residents of High River. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. What else have questions?
And so, dependent things we try and
I
was wondering.
Some comments. It was very technical in that